I came out of one of the most painful seasons of my life. Like one of those moments that like consumes you. And one day, it's like the Lord gifted that to me. It's like there's things you don't feel like that you write, but like the Lord writes it on your heart. And I just began to sing that I won't worry anymore. I won't worry anymore. I won't. We stood on the ice on the frozen ocean in like a desolate climate, so cold your skin burned, and I could feel him. I used to like to snorkel. And there was this time where I was swimming in the ocean and I was snorkeling and I was so hurt. It was like the only place I could get away because it was quiet. I could only hear the sound of my own breath. And I remember seeing the shell down at the bottom. And I remember swimming down to the bottom and telling the Lord that I don't want to come back up. I don't want to surface. And I remember him being there with me. My stuff filling with tears. I just remember him being there with me. We stood here on the beach in the Amazon. I watched the children play in the river. Unafraid. And I can just see that they're not afraid because nobody taught them to be afraid. They're not nervous diving in. Nobody showed them to be afraid. And it's like I can feel the voice of the Lord. Like when he came to the garden and Adam had sinned, and he said, "Who told you that? Who told you this? Who told you to be afraid? Who told you this was going to overwhelm you? Who told you this was the end? Who told you to be afraid?" See, we were told, don't run too fast. Be careful. And somewhere, somehow, be careful became be afraid. And it's not supposed to be that way. So like an anthem, we make this declaration. I won't be afraid anymore. I won't. What if it's bad news? I won't be afraid. I won't. I won't do it. What if I'm not good enough? I won't be afraid. What if it doesn't work out? I'm not going to be afraid. Because here's the truth. You should be afraid. You should be. Because you're not enough. You never have been. Like everything stacked up should terrify you. But it doesn't. Because of who goes with you. Does that make sense? So when the world looks at you and says, aren't you terrified? You should say, yes, I should be. Like I know. It makes sense for me to be terrified, but I won't. I won't worry. I won't do it.
right before we came on this trip, I preached on Sunday morning at my church, and I preached about fear. And oftentimes we preach about things we're dealing with, and the day before you leave for 10 days, away from civilization, there's a little bit of fear that can creep in. And I read this story about these two men that were found in hiding. So I believe it's September 2nd, 1948 was the end of World War II. In 2008, 60 years later, there's a Japanese man going through the hills on one of these islands. It wasn't Guam, it was Mindanao. And he's searching for the remains of Japanese soldiers from the war, 60 years after the end of the war. And he's out in the wilderness, and he finds two men, and they speak Japanese, and they look Japanese, and he begins to talk to them, and he finds out that they're Japanese soldiers who got separated from their company during the war on Mindanao in the Philippines. And when they got separated, they went into hiding. And 60 years later, they were still hiding. They weren't even sure if the war was over. And if it was, they were afraid if they came out of hiding and tried to go home that they would be court-martialed and executed or be in trouble. So for 60 years, these men in the mountains in a strange land, they hid because they were afraid. I look at those stories, and two things I learn about fear. Number one, fear is paralyzing. Number two, fear is a liar. Those men had nothing to be afraid of, but they believed the lie that paralyzed them, two of them for 60 years. A lot of times we get so spooked by the littlest things and the littlest thoughts, but if we'll take one step closer, if we'll have just enough courage to look at it again, what we find is that there's nothing even there. There's 10,000 reasons not to come to the Amazon. 10,000 of them are liars. Every single one of them. When I was preaching that sermon, in between my own words, I felt God speak to me. And I literally felt like God asked me, what if you don't come back? What if I take you 500 miles from civilization in Brazil? And what if this is the last time you ever stand in your church, the last time you ever see these people? And in that moment, I made a decision. If God calls me to the mountaintop, I'll go. If He calls me to the fountain, I'll go. If He wants to take me to blessing, if He wants to take me to the high places, I'll go. But if He wants to take me to the wilderness and He wants to let me die there, I'm still going. Me and Brian were talking about this, and what we realized is in that moment, like John the Baptist said, my joy is complete. That I need nothing else. I deserve nothing else. I don't demand another day from God. So if for some reason God leads me out here to kill me, so be it, I'm still going. Can you imagine if the body of Christ would not look at missions trips and say, oh God, just keep us safe. God, speak to me. Should I go? Will I be okay? God, protect us. What if we change the conversation to, you know what, God, you called me there, and whatever happens, if I knew I was going to die there, I'm still going, because my joy is complete. Jamie Foxx asked his kids a question. He says, "What's on the other side of fear?" And his kids respond, "Nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's just a mask." And if you'll have the courage to take another look or take a step closer and realize that, God will take you amazing places and give you incredible experiences. But as long as you believe the lie and you're paralyzed, you're missing out.
Because I know, because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know who holds my future. Because I know who holds my future. Because I know who holds my future. Because I know